Fan off too.
It isn't even on, dog.
Just making sure.
All right, we're live.
You gotta tell me so I can push that button to send a tweet out.
I just did it.
We're live.
Jared, what days are you actually having to go to work now? Like, go on site?
They just told me yesterday I got to go 4 days soon. Yeah, but they're moving my office. So I'm gonna have an office by myself. Then I gotta be there every day.
That'll be nice.
That means
I mean,
carpooling's out, huh?
No,
Or kind of.
He's. I don't know. Haven't talked to him yet. I don't know what they're doing with him. So, made a LinkedIn account, updating the resume and that kind of stuff.
Isn't it crazy? Did you think you would ever leave that job once you got it?
I don't know. I was looking
I always thought,
for
like,
a while.
once you got on there, like, you never really. I just always kind of figure people that got hired there retired there.
Yeah. If you get in the union, yeah.
You were like contracted or whatever.
I'm salary.
Gotcha. I'm salary too.
All right. As y'all seen, that's like
Drink all my water.
one quick topic. Weapons breakdown. Then you all doing your thing.
Oh
Yeah,
boy.
it's gonna be a short boy this week, eh?
We said that before.
Definition of a god roll. Weapons, yeah. Okay. Gambling corner. Can Ryan solo flawless the newest dungeon before Chad and Jared can solo flawless their chosen dungeons?
Dude, I'm just probably not even gonna sink the time into doing it.
It's a real easy one, dude. It took me 3 tries, and one of them was just a freak accident, and the other one happened on the sparrow section, and then I beat it on the third one. It's not bad at all. You've done it enough where it's gonna be easy.
I've been running it, and I'm like very confident that I could do it. I don't have any desire. Like, if it gave me something other than an emblem, then it would be different.
Yeah,
but
they should have
just for an
done the
emblem.
ghost and sparrow also for this one. Could you imagine like a little skull and crossbones ghost?
Yeah, that would have been pretty
You
cool.
should get
Or
weapon
like
skins.
give me like the truffle shuffle emote. Like, I would have had that shit done before you
Or
did.
what if they gave you like the Austringer skin for the Eyes Luna?
Yeah.
I would do that.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
They gotta do shit like that. That make people really want to do it.
Yeah, it's got to
'Cause,
be
I mean,
some
it's
kind of
clearly
skins.
there's a lot of Goonie references in that, and then
I don't hear "Hey, you guys" once.
yeah.
I think you said it. Maybe that's about it.
What is it he likes? Is it Payday? What's the candy bar?
I don't. Payday sounds right. I don't remember.
I always think that movie's Spielberg, but it's not Spielberg, is it? He's like a producer, but he's not the director, right?
Yeah, I know very little knowledge about that movie. I've seen it, but
Yeah,
like I never like rewatched it or dove into any of it.
samesies.
All right. Ready to get started?
Yep.
I guess.
All right, Jared, I'm going to click start and play the music and all that.
'Kay.
I'll count down 3, 2, 1. We are live for episode 41 of the Conqueror's Corner podcast. Today is Thursday, December 30th, and this is not Ryan Fox. I'm here with my fire team, Jared.
Hey, it's been a good day just running blunt execution rounds in sixes like for a few hours, and it was a lot of fun.
And the Chronicler himself, Chad Osero.
Lots of reading to get you guys a good segment here and close out the Dawning Right.
Remember, if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can take us on the road via Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast services. Be sure to click the bell, like, comment, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. Join the Discord server. Send us Bungie friend requests. Once again, no TWAB this week. So we're just going to be kind of going a little, kind of talking about what we did this week in Destiny and hitting some of our segments. So, Jared, let's get weird.
All right, so mainly the biggest thing that happened for us this week was that on Tuesday reset, the gunsmith was selling a pretty good Cartesian coordinate with accelerated coils, a charged masterwork, 4-pull lead for gold, and then a couple sights on it. That's the worst 2 sights that's in the column. And we see a lot of people in the community stuff saying, "Oh, it's a god roll, must get," and all this stuff. And I pushed back, said it's not a god roll. And my biggest gripe is that the community uses the word god roll for a weapon too much, and there needs to be less of it out there. A god roll needs to be a 5 out of 5, if not a 6 or 7 out of 5. So I think you all disagree with me a little bit, but I think we need to make the word god roll mean something again, and I can't stand for what's been going on.
I can agree, and I'm sure Ryan and Jared know I'm fairly, or assume that I'm fairly critical on my guns for rolls and such like that. I usually consider something a god roll if it's a full 5 out of 5. I am very happy with a great roll. Masterwork for me is like a plus, but not necessary for the most part. And then the perks, I only want one really, really good perk, and then one I will settle on a good perk. And I'll even settle on a bad perk if I don't have any more rolls of the gun. But like if the only thing you're doing is rolling for guns, then you're in the real end game there. If that's all you're looking for is the perfect roll. Because I have a bunch of guns that I settled, masterworked, and I have them sitting there and I'm happy with. If I run into a god roll, awesome. Don't think I'm going to, but it's I don't need a god roll to play the game. You only need it for day one raids.
Yeah, so I understand Jared out of principle saying like if it is a god roll, it has to be perfect. But I think like Jared views like one roll as the god roll, or views like some things to be super important that I myself might not deem as important. The main two things I care about are the column 3 and the column 4, and then usually like the like armor piercing rounds or ricochet rounds, scopes. Except unless it's like a shotgun. A shotgun, you pretty well have to have at least a 4 out of 5 before I would call it a god roll. That would be like rifled barrel, the either an assault mag or the accurized rounds, and then probably like assuming PvP, you probably want like quick draw, opening shot, something like that. The masterwork, I would love to have a ranged masterwork, but if you're going for 5 out of 5, it's like you're going to be very disappointed in this game. Maybe not so much in the future with weapon crafting. Kind of interested to see what that's going to bring. Maybe that will make god rolls again that Jared wants to see.
Yeah, so like what happened with this gun, it has accelerated coils in the vorpal and then a charge masterwork, which normally with fusions you don't want to double a charge time because that actually will end up dropping the DPS, right, Chad?
The masterwork doesn't anymore, but I believe that the other perks can still. Yeah.
Yeah, it still impacts it. It changes the impact damage. So like, I remember like I watched a lot of Lunar Fusions and stuff when they stacked acceleration on top of a charge time masterwork. The DPS went down instead of just having acceleration coils compared to the charge masterwork too. So that's, in my opinion, that made this gun not a god roll because it had something that negative about it. And also, another thing was negative. There was the 2 scopes. And neither one of them was the red dot micro or the red dot MOA too. So like both of those are like the superior scope. So my biggest gripe was like, no, this is not a god roll. It's not a 5 out of 5, and you have something that's negative happening to the weapon. And then
so Jared, like how big of a difference does the scope make on that in like a rapid hit fusion, like a PvE fusion rifle?
I think over a meter, maybe a little bit more, depending because it's
like
hit the range
like
and
if the god roll, if the perfect scope makes it a 100%, what does one of those other scopes make it? If everything else,
I see what you're saying. It's like if you're building the gun, how like vorpal matters the most, right? So that's like over 50%.
Yes,
it's just that. Yeah. So then like you're with something like rapid fusion, probably like a 5% difference, maybe at the most with the scope.
And I mean, if people are buying weapons from Banshee, is Banshee ever going to have a better than a 95% of it? Is he ever going to have like a 7 out of 5?
Well, I'm not saying this gun he sold was 95%. I don't think it was. I think it's closer to like a 75 or 80%.
And now, is this speaking from? This kind of gets into the whole argument of, the amount of time that we play. Like I had 3 in my vault that were masterwork that were better than the one that he sold, or that I prefer. So I mean, but we also play, many hours. Yeah. So
it's one of those things where it is definitely up to you. Now Jared's going to be much more on the technical numbers side for sure. And while he is, in my opinion, mostly correct because of that, because he's going based off of the numbers and the way things go. For some people just don't like the feel of certain perks. Some people don't like the feel of certain things, and that's all objective to you. Now the role that he had was better than any of the ones that I had, so I'm like, cool, and I bought it, and I'm like, great, it's a better version of something I already had. Awesome. I didn't, again, like Jared, I didn't consider it a god roll. And Banshee's, the most he's going to get is probably something like this, where it's like a 70-75% close to being just on the money. I think that's as good as he's going to get. And for most people, that's probably going to be the one for them. And while like YouTubers and people hype it up and be like, oh my God, this thing's a monster, this thing's the best, this thing's that, it's a really good roll. It was a really good roll. But it's too much hype. Like it's a must get roll if you don't have anything better than that, for sure. For anybody that didn't have a good Cartesian, that was the one. I was telling the guys that I knew at work, I'm like, hey, show me your dim on your phone, show me. And then if they had like only one of the four of them didn't have a good one, and I'm like, okay, go to Banshee, went home tonight and get this. The other guys, I'm like, he has a good one, but yours are better, you know. So it's just, it's. I'll never have a god roll. I'll never know the feeling of it. So
Yeah.
Hey,
Yep.
speaking of Dim, don't forget Dim is now an iPhone app, so you can download it from the App
yes,
Store.
Yep.
You don't have to do the whole
browser.
thing where you save it the browser, save it type of deal. So thank God for Dim. They're the GOAT in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I defined a god roll as a 5 out of 5. Some of the people, Fox, you're saying it's more about being like a solid 3 out of 5, and you're calling that. Are you saying that's a
Man,
god roll then?
I wouldn't say. I would probably be like, for it to be the God roll, it would have to be like 4 out of 5, and the one that's not the to make it a 5 out of 5 is the second, or it's like one that doesn't hurt you too bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's um, armor piercing rounds instead of ricochet rounds, or you get one of the average scopes instead of the good scope for a hand cannon. That would
Yeah,
kind
so
of
it's
be
still good, but not like the best.
right. You don't want like dog water for the one that's off. You don't want like smoothbore on your shotgun, and then something like that. But yeah, it's been a while since I played the 5 out of 5 God roll game. I know like Deathstroke Blues, Mindbender's Ambition, basically just shotguns. It seems like that was really, really, and like spare rations was one I grinded a lot of reckoning for.
Yeah.
Man, even with the extra perk slots, I still haven't gotten like a 5 out of 5 on those. The ones that have like extra perks on 3 and 4.
Yep.
I just can't get it.
Yeah.
I've gotten 4s out of 7s, which should be 5, but like I've gotten real close. But
I really like that Glaciocasm roll that I got. That
I
had
don't want to hear about it, Ryan. I can't like.
It had both slide shot and subsistence in the third column with the reservoir burst, so it could be good. And then I think it was like reservoir burst and maybe high impact reserves, I want to say, is in that fourth column. So I was pretty happy with that. I figured Chad, I think I posted it in the Discord asking you if it was any good.
Yeah, you did.
Yep. So with god rolls in all mind and stuff, we got the weapons to break down from the 6-man event. And first thing we'll start off with is a shotgun. Fox talked about grinding shotguns and stuff like that. So, which is the Wastelander M5. So PVE, I think we're probably going to be a little less like in disagreement for it, which is going to go rifled barrel, assault mag, subsistence, and trench barrel. I mean, there is 1-2 punch that's in the fourth column. I think people can make the argument for it, but I think that's usually paired with top tree hunters and maybe some Titan action going on with the throwing hammer. And then PvP, we're going to go full choke, accurized rounds, perpetual motion, and opening shot. So with all of these, I would go a ranged masterwork to make it a true God Roll 5 out of 5 for me. Any disagreement from you all here?
No.
I have that PVE roll. I got it like day one of the 30th anniversary, and I think I even told Jared, I was like, "Man, I got this shotgun. It's wild because every time you know, with shotguns and 90% of the stuff you do, everything's a one-shot kill unless it's like a major or an elite or whatever." But man, I tell you what, just going through and smashing red bars and just being full on ammo with a shotgun, you can rain some pain down. I do not like this gun in PvP. It just doesn't feel good to me.
Well, the reticle's slightly different, so that like the cones like it's smaller than what the normal shotgun is. So it does make me feel like I hit a shot in PvP slightly better, but it doesn't hit as good as your aggressive frames, as your fell winters, your found verdicts. But you do move a little bit faster, and like you're aiming it from the hip because you're moving faster, so you're just trying to be a little more agile with it than actually getting the one shot kill. So you kind of hit a shot with it and then clean it up, or you hit a couple hand cannon shots and you're just switching over to this shotgun.
Yeah, and people, man, I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on that dual loader perk that came out like with Beyond Light. That is an excellent PvE perk, especially whenever you're doing some of the more difficult stuff that kind of requires more than one shot to kill stuff at times. So if you get that, just mess around with it. And I have a couple shotguns that I've kept that on. That, like I said, I enjoy it. I think it's fun to play.
I guess the only thing people will talk about is slide shot for the PvP wall, but like the way they nerf shotguns, whenever you're sliding, it increases your pellet spread. It just feels really bad when you're sliding and you shoot a shot. It's like even when I throw a shotgun and I start doing that, I'm like, oh, I can't do that, can't slide, and I whiff shots like within, I feel like 6 meters, 5 meters, and like they don't get any damage on them. All right. Next weapon is Pardon Our Dust. So, we all get that message sometimes whenever you're in game and Bungie does a little hotfix update and kicks everybody out of the game and stuff like that. So it's a kinetic grenade launcher, and last season we got ignition code. So this you can kind of have that in mind when comparing to this one and what you have with it. So for PvE wall, I'm looking at quick launch, blinded nades or spike nades, and then auto-loading holster Vorpal, because when you think about some of the ignition codes that you have or something like you just have a slide shot laying around, you might have a slide shot Vorpal with spike nades, so basically you're clearing out ads with that, or a slide shot demo. But again, like if you didn't play last season and you need a kinetic grenade launcher, this is great. Before fusions had this particle deconstruction, everybody usually run a grenade launcher paired with anarchy and then a primary weapon, which, anarchy did get a hit, but it can still be viable.
Yep.
So this is going to be a great one to pick up. I feel like auto-loading and blinding paired together is like a great pairing for this in PvE.
Yeah, I want to give a pro tip. Hang on to at least one or two of the concussion grenade instead of the blinding grenades. In case those blinding grenades ever get hit, it might not be a bad idea to have some of those concussions on deck, because they're very, very, very similar to the blinding grenades, and that might be something that's beneficial if they have like a big weapon overhaul.
Okay. Yeah, so this typical grenade launcher form. Same, all column 2 is pretty much the same as all the other breach grenade launchers. I don't think they'll ever put the sticky nades back on the breach loaders. That's one of the things that Mountaintop could get. So, maybe we get exotic breach grenade launcher at some point that can do sticky nades, but I don't think they'll ever bring that back.
They'll call it like K2 or something.
So these did get hit in PvP recently, so you don't see as much of them in the Crucible. But I would go Volatile Launch, Spike Nades, Perpetual Motion, Demolitionist. You know, I mean, if you get a kill with this in PvP, you're getting 20% of your nade back with that Demolitionist. So all that stuff is pretty hard to come by right now. They slowed a lot of the regions and, you know, made the grenade just slightly more powerful in some cases. So it's something that makes sense to me. I mean, of course, auto-loading holster is going to be great there too, because you can shoot that shot, stow it, and then go on with your primary and then pull it back out when you need it. Not much about home so far for me with this weapon. I did get all-loading demolitionist spike nades, so if I needed to use it in PvP, I would probably use that in the kinetic slot. But to me, if I'm using a grenade launcher that's in the kinetic slot, I'll use it with a horde on for the exotic slot in PvP because it just shuts down a lane. Even though I hate being that person, but every now and then, if it's 5 shotgun rushers on the other team, sometimes you need to shut down a lane to be able to breathe for a half a second.
Right.
All right. The next weapon is the BXR 55 Battler. This is probably something that everybody's got their hands on and been using it and feeling the Halo play inside of Destiny, right?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't feel as good as it did in Halo. Am I the only one that feels that way?
It's funny too because it doesn't feel as good, but it feels better than the Halo Infinite one to me, like way better. But yeah,
I
it
don't
doesn't
play that
feel
game.
it doesn't feel like it's close, but still.
Yeah, there's a lot of things go on with pulse rifles to make them feel good. And the one thing for me is the recoil direction. So this weapon naturally has a recoil direction of 70. So you usually want it to end in 5 or be 100. So to me, arrowhead break now makes that recoil direction 100. So that's a must-have for me on this weapon to make it just feel that much better. So of course for the PvE, well, I'm going arrowhead break, ricochet rounds, demolitionist, and adrenaline junkie. That dodge roll, right? I feel like that's the best synonym for that abbreviation for that. You know, just so much synergy. Just feel like you can take out red bars decently well. 2x scope to be able to hit stuff at a distance, and then you're getting that damage buff after you get a kill, and you're getting your nade back at the same time. So, that's what I'm seeing for PvE. I'm really not seeing much else besides, of course, outlaw kill clip, which is always good, no matter if you're in PvP or PvE, which you can get on this weapon. All right, PvP is probably one of the most, if there's any debate, that's probably what it'll be at. I think the first 2 columns, you know, arrowhead break and ricochet rounds, I guess you could go accurize rounds in the second column, but that's just like, accurize gives you plus 10 range, and ricochet gives you plus 5 range with plus 10 stability, and stability is always a good thing on pulse rifles, so, you know, whatever you feel best. Controller people, you probably want to definitely have the ricochet rounds. Third column, I got perpetual motion on for the increase of handling and stability and reload. I feel like it's free perks on a weapon because, like in PvP, I feel like I'm always moving, and it's always helping out the weapon. And then for me, it's gonna be blunt execution rounds. I played with this a lot today, and I was top tree hunter, where you get the snare melee where you can throw it and it sticks, and waits for somebody to walk into it. As long as you're within 15 meters when that goes off, you proc blunt execution rounds. So that's a headshot is 50 per pull, so you can pop out. If you hit 3 headshots, 150 damage. That's an easy 2-tap. But of course, you got kill clip in that last column. You have Eye of the Storm. So, have you all using this in PvP at all, or you all PvE so far this season?
So I have very very lightly touched Crucible since the 30th stuff came out. I've used this gun a few times, but I try to use it like not ADSing, because you know it's like the Halo gun, right? So I don't really have. I do have that perpetual motion blood execution rounds roll. I don't think it has like all the other slots. Actually, mine has like small bore and flared magwell. I think in those first columns, but I wanted to try out that blunt execution rounds because that was kind of like the BXR, you know, and they even kind of like named it pretty cool, like execution. I know it starts with an E, but technically it's like BXR shortened. But it's I did it just enough to proc it a few times, and I was like, oh, that's cool, and that's really about it. But my PVE roll that I've been using is a demo kill clip that I've liked pretty well.
Yeah, I got a demo adrenaline, and it's a lot of fun. Just lay it out, get it to 0 in the mag, toss a grenade, kill some stuff, and then just full stacks on the damage, and just keep doing that over and over again. It's just fun. I really enjoy demo getting the automatic reload. That's one of my favorite parts about demo. Is just reloading any gun that has it just by throwing a grenade, and then that just with adrenaline, that synergy is a lot of fun. But I haven't gotten a good. I do have one with blunt execution rounds, but I think the third column was negligible, so I haven't even tried it. It is definitely something I've been trying to get my hands on. I'm gonna have to do a lot more dares to hope I can get enough keys to get one that is it. But so far, no luck.
Yeah. So a lot of good stuff to chase on this weapon, and that you can make it your own. You know, Eye of the Storm is like free perks in this. Whenever you get your health gets low, and you just bullets are bending to your opponent's head quite easily. All right, Chad, can you take us through this retrace path?
Retrace path. That is the Solar Legendary Trace Rifle, the first one of its kind. So it's good to see that. We're all glad to see a trace rifle that we can equip and have another exotic in our slot somewhere else. But let's see. So for PVE, we're looking for Hammer Forged, Tact Mag, Subsistence, and then One for All or Golden Tricorn. That's really going to be a really good one there. Subsistence is going to be really fun because it's basically going to run it like an auto rifle. So you're just going to be getting your mag back over and over again, and you have a large enough mag that you'll be getting enough kills to proc it over and over pretty consistently. I don't have one with Golden Tricorn or Subsistence yet. I do have one that I've been messing around with, but nothing really super good. But for PvP, if you like rolling trace rifles in there, again, Hammerforged, Tact Mag, and then Perpetual Motion Demo. Like Jared said before, Demolitionist kills in PvP give you a lot more grenade energy than they do in PvE. This is considered a secondary weapon. So what it's not is it still 20% or is it more? Because I remember the higher the weapon, the more grenade energy you get back.
It's 20% for specials and heavy.
Okay.
And then 10 for primary. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a whole, what is it? Because it's 3 minutes base grenade recharge.
On that on that one grenade,
So that's a good chunk of time back that you don't have to wait anymore just by getting one kill with it. Yeah.
Especially
and grenades can go to town.
Like if you decide like not specking grenades, right? She was like, I want to keep my nade down to tier 3, tier 4, and do everything. Do something else, right? Yeah. So like you're passively just giving yourself a tier, tier 10, tier 9, or tier 10 cooldown based on just your gameplay. I'm just interested to see if they ever give us an artifact mod for trace rifles now that we have a legendary version. So I mean, you can't go double trace rifles now with Aegir Scepter in this. So you compare that either with like maybe a sword to help you clean up, or like a machine gun, and just do extra damage all the time to everything. So I think there's a lot of fun left in this. And I don't know if you messed around with that Golden Tricorn. I tried to get it to proc in PvP, and it's not from me. And because grenades and melee just feel like less. I feel like if you're a bottom tree golden gun, to where you can proc a melee kill quite easily, then it'll work out good for you.
Yeah, I haven't gotten one of these with Golden Tracker. I don't think I've even used it before on any of the other guns that can run it. So I 100% don't think I've even used it before.
You talking about that trace rifle?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry, my son just came out of bed. I had some diaper duties to take care of, so I apologize for that.
All right. What just happened?
By the way, that trace rifle is hot garbage. So it's like a flaming pile of trash. The roll that I have on it that I thought would be like the god roll, which once again I got probably way sooner than I should have. I got like a subsistence golden tricorn roll with like fluted and tactical and a handling masterwork, and that thing, I swear to God, it just tickles the bad guys.
All right, so I've lost our thing on OBS, so you only got audio on YouTube right now. The next weapon here is half truths, and once you all, it's not much to discuss with that because Eager's Edge is the only thing I care about on adaptive frame sword.
All right. So we're looking at arc adaptive again, like you said. This is obviously the one that we're not very interested in. We want the shiny version, as has been said online. But PvE, obviously, every time for swords, it's going to be Jagged Sword Master Guard if you can get it. And then for PvE, Relentless Eager Edge. And then for PvP, Thresh Eager Edge. Eager Edge is going to be the one that you mostly want. Again, it's very good for utility. And that's about all we really want out of an adaptive sword is going to be that Eager Edge. The only reason we're really using it over a spin to win or a caster, if you like casters. Really the only adaptive swords that us as a group are interested in are these ones because of Eager Edge. Otherwise, we're using the other two versions. And I mean, I have one of these with an Eager Edge because I don't have the other half yet with it. And I'm waiting for the other half that I get with it because I haven't used it. I'm waiting to pop that on the purple sword.
Yeah.
Because I see Jared using it and it's cracking me up every time I watch it happen. And I'm like, I can't wait till I get the purple one to do it. I hope it's soon.
Yeah. So I have been using this sword in PvP and it's fun. It is like super fun in PvP. I haven't had that much fun with the sword since like they introduced Black Talon, right? So like somebody's coming around the corner and you just whip it out and you lunge at them like 15 meters away with a heavy attack and they're just deleted, right? So that's the only thing you really care about with this weapon in PvP is just having that perk. I mean, you're pretty much only going to get 2 kills off with it. If you get more than that, like, good for you. But like, I just found it it's just really difficult for somebody of my skill, which is like split in the middle of the bell curve to get anything more than 2.
Dude, you're not. That's not.
I don't know. I'm right there in the middle.
No, listen, like I looked at stats. I am considered a top 20% player. I'm like right at 20 to 23% elo. And if I'm that high, you
got higher elo than me.
You 12 to 15.
You played more trials than me. I just didn't play that much. Well, okay.
But any ranking system that says I'm out of 5, like 1 out of 5, that's a bad ranking system. So.
Yeah, imagine having a good rank system in Destiny. That'd be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah, could you imagine?
Yeah, so the other half, the Void one, which just looks better, I think, for the most part, and that Eager Edge is in the 3rd column. So that's the most important thing. So that means you can have a DPS in that 4th slot. So, but mine is, I have pretty close to what I exactly want, except for that last column. I have a surrounded, which surrounded is decent in PvP. I put the surrounded spec on it just to make that last a little bit longer, which is it's 35%, which is really good. But it does, like, as you do more damage and take out stuff, it surrounded will go away. So it's kind of counterproductive, but still it has an eagre's edge. In the third slot, I can just fly around the map and fly myself into a wall and kill myself on impact. Which is hilarious that you create so much momentum that you smack into a wall and die. So PvE, you're gonna go Jagged Edge, Sword Master's Guard, and then Eager Edge, and then Whirlwind Blade. Even with the nerf, the Whirlwind Blade, I think it's still the best when it comes to clearing ads and just doing damage to one target. So you're just like walking both lines there. PvP is going to be exactly the same except for Vorpal in that last column, just in case you're running up to somebody with a super and you're going to guarantee to get that kill because you're getting the kill otherwise with any of the other perks in that last column. So, of course, the other half is like the lowest drop rate for some reason in the game, and a lot of people are having trouble to get it. So anytime people has trouble to get anything in the game, Chad's going to be part of that group because he just hasn't earned it yet. So
Chad and Paul Tassi.
Yeah, apparently it's just a thing. I've gotten the rock ship. I've gotten all kinds of other things, and I've only had one of those to drop.
Dude, I have zero.
Completely.
I still haven't had any.
You have, dude. I've reset Zur already. I haven't done it yet. You've only done like 40 runs, my guy.
No, I haven't.
Get out of
I've
here.
done way more than that. I've done like 50.
Oh, yeah, well, that's way more. Yeah. You're still at half my number there, guy.
I'm at triple digits.
Yeah. And you've gotten what, 3 of them?
Yeah, I think 3.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah, that's still crazy, man. 1 for each digit. But yeah, it is. The way they explained it is, and for people that understand it, like me, is a shiny Pokemon, which is just an alternate coloring version of the original. Although this one, obviously, since it's void, it has void. But that's it. It's only a rarer drop rate because of that, and because of that, they put Eager Edge in the 3rd slot to make it even more desirable for people like us who also want a damage perk along with it.
Yeah.
And it makes me sad.
So the other damage perk in that last column is Frenzy, which is very easy to proc in PvE, which is a 15% damage bonus. But
yeah, it's just surrounded, but not as damage boosting.
Yeah, I mean it's something that's there. So really, I mean, all those perks in the last column I'd be fine with. I think the only thing I care about is Eagre's Edge. I just will keep saying that. It's the most fun. Zooming around the map, zooming in PvP. And like you get some crazy lunges, like you do feel like you're playing like Halo 2 and you get that sword and you're like almost kind of invincible there for like half a second. Yeah. So all right, that's going to do it for the weapons breakdown this week. So officially we broke down all the weapons you can get so far in Season 15. I doubt they add anything else because this has been a heck of a season when we talk about looking at weapons. You can scroll for a while on LightGG till you get to the bottom of the page, which shows 46 weapons this season alone.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That's granted, it has been a 6-month season, so we probably should get a fair bit of weapons. But even if you look at it, that's still 7.5 weapons a month or something, which is it's hard to complain about. So
that does include the difference of like the regular wall and the adept wall, but there's only like 3 of those. So,
and God forbid you have to pay $20 to be able to do that. So
all right.
Dad's not even going to step into that. He's just going to shake his head over there.
All right, so it was holiday week last week, Christmas, and like everybody had different time schedules. No gambling corner stuff going on. This week, just a quick update. I'm at 11,000. Fox is at 27,000, and Shadow is at 23,850.
Have we played together in the last 2 weeks at all? All 3 of us at the same time?
I don't think so.
I was away from the computer for like 5 days there, so I don't think so.
I know, man. I missed you. I've been doing all these Sherpas trying to get that Vault of Glass emblem. I finally got my 10th one, so good to
Oh
go. I
man,
think multiple people from the clan had never done Vault of Glass.
God, I wish I was there. It's gonna be so much harder for me to get mine.
We should just make
I'll help you
random
though.
accounts and just level them up and just take us through.
Yeah, we'll just alternate like who
Yeah.
loads in on the
I mean,
new.
Yeah.
really, you can 5-man that boss, so you just have somebody just hanging around.
Whoever, I mean, just whoever has the relic is
Oh.
the low man.
Just make it an Xbox account. That way it loads in, and we can still play on PC with R3, and then we're good.
Loads in 45 minutes.
Hey man, that's fine.
All right, Chad. It's time for the little segment.
Oh baby. Well, we finished the major assignment that I had for this season. But we so far we've talked about the Awoken. We've talked about their beginnings. We've talked about the beginnings of the Hive and their history. But with that book of sorrows that was going on, I completely didn't talk about the dawning that happened, and some good stories from there. I have talked about stories. I talked about when Ava met Saint, which is part of the dawning stories, and then when Shax, or sorry, quote unquote, someone that looks like Shax, went to talk to Ava about gifting a bow to his very special friend. Um, and so, those are two of my favorite stories. But I'll talk about some other stories of hers that I appreciate very much. The first one is A Cautionary Tale, and it begins like this. It's, Ava Levante, Akora caught my wrist and leaned in to whisper, I need to speak with you about Eris Morn. I will never forget that day. Way back then, I was very busy getting the Vanguard and the other tower vendors excited about the dawning. In turn, many reached out to me about anything related to the holiday. Still, I was surprised that the Warlock Vanguard would seek me out and to talk about Eris Morn of all people. I might have shuddered in spite of myself. I saw you chatting with her as you were getting the decorations set up. What I recalled was Eris talking at me about abysses while I was trying to hang lanterns. But I did not want to say that to Ikora. She continued, I'm worried about her. She seems quite depressed. I flicked my eyes up at Ikora and then looked away. To my credit, I did not snort. She's even more morose than usual. And the technicians in the Hall of Guardians are complaining. Ava, could you talk to her? Perhaps get her to help you out? Surely you could use an extra set of hands. A terrible idea. But again, I could not say no. Instead, I suggested, perhaps she has a friend. Well, maybe not a friend, but somebody she likes to talk to. Someone who she has something in common with. I trailed off, remembering who we were speaking of. But Ikora perked up. There is someone she addresses voluntarily. A Genesim scribe named Asher Mir. He's also, well, he's an excellent scholar. I'll reach out to him, unless you know of him, of course. I don't, I said brightly, but I hope it goes well. I want everybody to have a happy dawning. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have deliveries to make. I wasn't yet familiar enough with Ikora to squeeze her arm and farewell, so I nodded and made my escape. But then I crossed paths with her again later that day. What a look she gave me. I talked to Asher Muir, as you suggested, she muttered. Well? He grumbled at first. He seemed unaware that the dawning was even taking place. In fact, but I explained, and when I told him it would be very well regarded if he wrote her a dawning greeting card or went to visit her, he said he could write a card. He also said he had a dawning gift for her. Oh, how kind. I'm not so sure, she sighed, producing a piece of parchment. It was folded in four to form a greeting card. Nothing on the cover, but inside was written, Eris, the Warlock Vanguard has approached me about cheering you up. For a holiday that is going on, I shall seize the serendipitous opportunity to send you the research notes you demanded of me on heretical practices among the Hive. However spurious the grounds for your request, warmest wishes to you this dawning. Asher Muir. Did you dictate that last part to him, Ikora? She paused for a moment. Yes. I laughed. Well, you had better take it to her. I wouldn't call Hive research a traditional dawning present, but she did request it. Ikora shook her head wearily and we parted ways. Later that same day, as I was about to head out on my last round of deliveries, Ikora approached me yet again. She told me, I went to see Eris. I don't know if she's any more cheerful, although she did say, yes. I had been expecting those notes for some time now. Good. She even wrote a dawning message back to Asher. Ikora handed me the same piece of parchment that her scribe colleague had used, but it had been refolded. I read, Asher, take heed not to succumb to the whispers as fools do. Warmest wishes to you this dawning, Eris Morn. I shrugged. The warlock cleared her throat. Eris also had a dawning gift for me to pass on to Asher. At least she's making an effort. Well, Ikora hauled me aside and took out a small, lumpy packet wrapped in cloth. She peeled back the layers of tissue with care, and there it was. The dawning gift glowed with a sickly green luminescence. I can't give this to him, Ikora hissed. I can just. She looked around for eavesdroppers. Get rid of it, right? This is beyond a question of dawning etiquette, I whispered back. She nodded, her face set. Let us never speak of this again. I just love the Asher and Eris. I didn't know that they were in contact. I didn't know that they talked to each other, but it's very much in character for the both of them. Uh, and Ikora's being the messenger for them both is hilarious because she can't say no to either of them because Asher doesn't care who she is. And same thing with Eris.
Mhm.
Nobody uses her like a messenger, but they did.
Jared loves Asher.
Yeah,
I know
loves
that's.
him so much.
I remembered that story and I'm like, yeah, I got to share that one for sure.
Oh yeah.
The next one is going to be, let's see here. It's going to be Ryan's most favoritist person in the tower currently.
Okay.
The story is a friendly face. Have you ever met someone who immediately rubbed you the wrong way? They can appear very friendly, but it's always a particular type of friendly. The different varieties can be heard to recognize when you're young, but with time you'll see them all. The rarest form is genuine kindness, though there's also fair weather friendly. I want something friendly, and look how friendly I am friendly. The last one's always hiding something, and they hope their performance covers it up. This last group is also where we find the man who calls himself the Drifter. I do not like to speak ill of others, but him I do not trust. I don't really know what he does at beyond that gate, and I'm not sure I want to know. I've spoken to him only a couple of times. He always seems like he's in a rush. The one conversation we've had beyond our introduction was very short, and he slinked away before I could get any answers. It was right before the start of the Dawning Festival. I was getting my decorations set up as he walked up to my booth and asked, Well, what's all this? Surely you know of the Dawning, I said, not in a rude way, but in a friendly way. I know you're a snake, friendly. Oh, of course, he said. I guess I'd forgotten I was getting to be that season. Time just goes right on by, don't it, sister? Right on by. He looked up at the decorations for a long time, hands on his hips, nodding approvingly. It certainly can, I said. Actually, I wanted to ask, he said, I don't know what I've been anywhere that actually celebrated the dawning. Why don't you tell me a thing or two? I may not be centuries old, my friend, but I am no naive child either. Old Ava knows a lie when she hears it. I spent a bit of time telling him about our festival anyway, explaining our traditions and the meanings behind them. He nodded along, seemingly very attentive. I tried to bring the conversation back to him. So, Drifter, where are you? Well, best be on my way, he said, pretending not to hear me as he backed up. I've taken up enough of your time. Who knows how much of us have left? As he walked off, he tossed back, Look at the decor, good colors, and disappeared around the corner. I've heard other people talk about this strange man. They mostly say the same things, very friendly, if a little mysterious. On the other hand, I've also heard some things I won't repeat. They're far too gruesome to be true, and I won't facilitate spreading false rumors. I'm sure his eating habits are no different from yours or mine. Suffice to say, something is off about him. I'd recommend keeping an eye on him. It's just,
Man, the Drifter's
it's the
the
Drifter.
best, right? The best. Absolutely the best.
He's a skeevy fella, but yeah, it makes sense. I mean, she sets up in the middle of the tower, so she's pretty far away from him at that point. But she does have a shop. Who knows how close that is to the tower?
I don't think you guys realize how close we were to having our intro to the podcast be from the Drifter, or the voice actor of the Drifter in the Drifter's voice. So I really considered spending the $299 it was going to cost
Oof,
in order
I
to
would have
have
pitched in for that.
in order to have the drifter like announce the
The
you're
Conqueror's Corner.
listening to the Conqueror's Corner podcast, brother. Like so it might still happen. We'll see how the bonuses go this year. And also how close we were, when the drifter's going ding ding ding
Yeah.
and he's flipping that coin around. How close the Conqueror's Corner, there is a transition video, like a stinger that I have for the stream of him doing that, and when it says like, how he'll go like, "Hi, bring a sword," but it's like the Conqueror's Corner logo on the coin, and then it zooms in to like our OBS. Like that's like 3/4 of the way completed, but I've kind of been like saving it to surprise you guys with. But
Well, I'm glad that
we're
Donnie
getting
story
there.
could bring that out.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's just
yeah.
for you guys.
Let's see here. The next and last story is about our very good friend and the main MC of the Dares of Eternity, Zur. So this goes back to her time, Ava's time back in the original tower, or the tower that we originally knew in D1. So it's the story called "You Get Used to Him." There is a strange fellow who, well, perhaps you've seen him. He doesn't really come and go as you or I might traditionally think. It's more that you turn around and he's either there or he's not. His appearances are steady and predictable at least. He's called Zur. I'm not sure why one draws the tiny arrow over his name, but it's important to try and respect the wishes of those we do not understand. The first time I ever saw Zur, I was by myself at the stall in the tower. The old tower, I suppose you'd call it now. I hadn't been there long at all. I looked up and this man had appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. His back was to me, but even from behind, something seemed off about him. Something in his posture. As he started to turn, I noticed his whole face appeared covered in hair. It even seemed to be moving, gently flowing on its own, but there was no wind. When the light hit his face, I screamed and ducked behind my cabinets. I was sure this abomination had come to invade us, and that more of them were just out of sight and that we were done for. Eventually, I realized no one else was screaming. I heard no sounds of distress. I peeked out and saw that everyone was going about their business. No one was panicked but me. Many of them, people, saw him. Several were interacting with him. Slowly, I stood back up and tried to go about my business, though I rarely looked away. Tess came over before too long and asked her about that strange figure. "Oh, that's Zur," she said, unconcerned. "He comes through every so often and sells particular hard to find things." She considered him for a moment and then added, "Could do with a bit of a wardrobe update if you ask me, but he's otherwise harmless." "What is he?" I asked. "I've never seen a creature like that before." "Zur is, I believe he's called a Jovian. They're from out beyond even the reef. I'm afraid I don't know much else about them. But they're friendly?" "Well, they don't attack us, if that's what you mean. I don't know if I'd call Zur friendly, but he's not hostile." I felt more at ease after our conversation, though I still could not shake my fear. For many months, I jumped every time I saw him and had to fight back the instinct to hide. Eventually, I grew used to his presence. I even began to appreciate his predictability. It became a symbol that everything was functioning as it should. The fear evaporated with time. I have often found that my first reaction to new things is fear. Perhaps it is this way for everyone. However, I have also found that I accept and acknowledge my fear. It is easier to push through until I'm no longer afraid. The new things has almost never been as frightening as I first heard. I mean, I kind of had that reaction to Zur when I first saw him. Old squid face. It's a little bit disconcerting when you meet him the first time. But that is, I can imagine this little old lady hiding behind this cupboard screaming and nobody else is doing anything.
Do you remember the first time you met Zur, Chad? I remember the first time I met
Yes.
him. I'm just curious if it's the same time that I met him.
I met him when he had Icebreaker, I
Okay,
think.
so it had been a minute.
It'd been a
I
minute,
met him
yeah.
So I met him. I remember. So the game came out on like a Tuesday, and we played, and I took the whole week off because like a new Bungie game, and it's gonna be the new Halo, and me and one of my buddies, Wolfie, were playing together. And Wolfie's the guy that's good at whatever game he plays. He's the best at, and it's very frustrating because he doesn't play any game very much. and he's also good at absolutely everything that he does. Like a college athlete, like basketball player. He's, he hasn't. I remember one time we were here and we were having a party, and I think he won like $300 off of all of us because he bet us in 3 games he could get a nuke in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and he hadn't played it in like 5 years. And of course, in like the second game, he gets it. So I mean, he's just insane at video games. And it was the first he played Destiny with me all the way through, and beat the campaign. Came back the next day playing, and it was that first Friday Destiny was out. He was in the tower, the original D1 tower. He was kind of, where he is at the tower, kind of at the bottom there, bottom mid. And he goes, "Who's this guy standing here, selling stuff?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Yeah, this guy here." And I was like, "What? This guy hasn't been here the last 3 days." And so that's the first time I met him. I can't remember what he had. I want to say like Red Death, maybe. That might have been week 2 though.
I
I'll
don't
look it
remember.
up.
I
have to
think
look
I
it up.
started in week 3. I can't remember when I started playing it, but
Oh,
I started playing the icebreaker week. Because I remember I had gotten just enough to get it, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool weapon. It regenerates its ammo, and I'm just like, boop, and I clicked on it. I'm like, sweet. But like, I played the beta, and then I had forgotten all about Destiny until like a while later when my stepbrother enters the room, and he's like, hey man, I remember you played the beta for that Destiny game. I'm like, yeah, I should look up when that comes out. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And he's like, dude, it's been out for a couple weeks. And I'm like, no way. So I just immediately downloaded it on my Xbox and started playing it right then and there. And that was like a Monday. That was like the Monday before of that week. So that's how I
Okay.
remember when I started playing was Icebreaker week.
Yeah, so Red Death was week 1, Gallahorn was week 2.
Yeah.
And I remember saving up like just enough money, just enough or strange coins, and grinding out those like the nightfalls or whatever. And been able to get. I didn't buy Red Death because like back then, man, like there wasn't like a API or whatever like there is now to where like what the exotics are. So like if somebody had an exotic, like you like observed everybody in the tower, and whoever showed up, like every exotic was something new. But it was pretty wild. So Red Death was week 1, Gogglehorn was week 2, and everybody thought I'm not going to use my strange coins on a heavy because I would rather it be an exotic.
That I'm going to use.
Because you don't use your heavy as much. Week 3 was
Use your exotic
Suros.
primers.
Yeah, and
Okay.
week 4 was Red Death, and week 5 was Icebreaker.
There you go, week 5.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I see I'm just looking through here. Week 8 was Patience and Time. What a wonderful. I love that sniper. That's one that I really miss. You remember Patience and Time?
Yeah. You crouch and use as soon as you go ADS, you just go invis.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was mean.
Jared's like, that would be so broken in D2.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You're right, Jared. It would be.
I just looked at Destiny 1 release date. I was like, what year was that? That was 2014. And like that's like me and my wife just started dating the month before it came out.
Oh.
Yeah.
I remember I used to play me and your brother used to play Destiny 1 a lot together. It's pretty wild because your brother is like 3 years younger than you are probably.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah. Fun times though.
We mentioned the history of Bungie and stuff come out. Fox, I think it's time for the history of Bungie segment, and you got a banger for us today. Yeah.
I mean, listen, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like the next 7 to 8 weeks are gonna be absolute bangers. I'm trying to keep this kind of short because I could make like an hour out of these next couple episodes most likely. But I want to talk here. Previously on History of Bungie, Bungie released Myth 2, but lost $800,000 recalling the game due to a hard drive wiping bug that affected a very minimal number of potential users. Bungie West had finished Oni, the game that they had done there. So the game they were working on now, which was codenamed Monkey Nuts, I'm sure as you guys know that game was clearly Halo Combat Evolved, is what it would later be known as. And so the codename was Monkey Nuts, but they changed it because Jason Jones didn't want to tell his mother that he was on a game called Monkey Nuts. So they changed the codename to Blam, Blam, which, if anybody that has ever tried to curse on the Bungie forums, that is what is put in place of your curse word, is the word Blam.
Wow.
So I won't tell you how I know that. I'll just tell you that I know that. So E3 1999, the most anticipated game winner was a game that was shown only behind closed doors that required a very, very, very strict non-disclosure agreement to even see and was limited to very select journalists. So the hype was building for this next Bungie game. The lead PR guy at Bungie, whose name was Peter, I believe it was Tomte, Tamte. I might be saying that wrong. I really doubt you're listening to this podcast, but if you are, I apologize that I mispronounced your name if I did. He was a former employee of Apple. So, being that, he was able to secure a one-on-one meeting with Steve Jobs, with Jason Jones, in order for them to talk about their upcoming game. Um, a tech guy actually did end up tagging along with this. Jobs, they say, and I've watched many videos, read many articles. Some of these were actually Bungie videos that were released. That's kind of my cited sources. Jobs was finishing a popsicle upon entering the meeting, and within a few minutes of the gameplay, states, after seeing some reflections from the sun, Pixar can do this 30 times at the level that you're doing it now. Jones replies, can they do it in real time? They say Jobs waits about 10 seconds and replies, you're in. So this corresponds to Bungie being able to show the game at Macworld Expo 1999. Sounds like a pretty big deal if you ask me. The meeting occurred on a Thursday and the expo was on the following Tuesday. So they had like 4 to 5 days, essentially, to have this demo ready. The only problem being they had been developing on Windows and now they're going to a Mac Expo. So their sound engine was not compatible with the Mac. So, being so, if they were going to have a demo that they were literally going to have to make from scratch because nothing was compatible at this time, they were going to have to do so, and there would be no sound. So it would just be like a mute presentation, essentially. So they talked to Marty O'Donnell of Bungie music fame, and they asked him to write a score, and they gave him a budget of $3,500. So he asked for direction, and he was told it needs to be ancient, it needs to be mysterious, and it needs to be epic. So he said that the Bungie office had recently burnt down in Chicago, so he was going back to his partner's office that was actually in the basement of his partner's home. So they go, and he said on the way over, he was trying to think of something ancient. So the first thing he thought of was Gregorian chant. And, obviously something mysterious that kind of goes along with it as well. He had said that structurally, he had always loved the song by the Beatles, Yesterday. Chad, do you want to give us a little bit of how Yesterday goes?
We don't get D
Nope.
Nope. So he talks about how there's like a high note and a low note, and that kind of like the structure of it. And you can watch this on, there is a very, very, very good IGN Unfiltered podcast. Where it's also on YouTube in video form, to where they have an interview with Marty O'Donnell, and Ryan McCaffrey is the guy from IGN that does it. It's absolutely excellent. This part is somewhere around 30, we'll say 28 to 33 minutes in that, where they talk about this. But he goes on, and you got Marty O'Donnell talking about how Yesterday, and then he kind of like goes through the note progression of how it goes. and then he goes through the Halo, the Gregorian chant with it. So super cool stuff. I love the Beatles. They're my favorite band of all time. So I was like just eating up all this. So they said that they had like 4 days to go and record this. So he gets professionals, which Marty O'Donnell, he claims, I couldn't verify this, but I mean, I saw this in this like 2 hour interview that the people that did the Mr. Clean commercial that he like produced, it was the same voice professionals that for the Mr. Clean were the same people that did the chant for the Halo song, which I thought was pretty cool. So he records it, they play it over the Halo gameplay. Halo at this time is still like a third person shooter. So keep in mind that Halo was meant to be, at this time, it was kind of a successor to Myth 2, which keep in mind that the Myth games were real-time strategy games. Jason just kind of broke away from the second one, and he's like, hey, why don't we do a Myth game, but we make it like a science fiction game? So they developed this big like space opera setting, and they go in and they have this big open terrain that will remind you a lot. If you remember the Halo Combat Evolved, the second level that was actually called Halo. At the beginning, the Pillar of Autumn is kind of crashed, like the escape that you take off the Pillar of Autumn, like the escape pod crashes onto the Halo. You walk out of that, and you're just in this vast open area. So that was kind of the map that they had been working on. At this time, they're like, hey, how are we going to traverse this big open terrain? Because at the time, a lot of stuff was inside and everything. So they developed the Warthog, and they realized the Warthog is a lot more fun if you're the control person that is just clicking like where the Warthog will go. So as this is going, they're like, oh, this is awesome. This Warthog is sweet. They start moving the camera closer and closer and closer and closer to the player controlled character. And all of a sudden, you've got a third person action game as opposed to a real-time strategy game. Real-time strategy game. Now, Jones and Bungie and company were kind of in a first-person shooter fatigue, coming off of like the marathon games and things. And Id had came out with Quake, and everything was considered like a Quake clone at the time. So he was kind of trying to avoid being a first-person shooter. They had this third-person game, and so they go on to the Macworld Expo 1999. Things go well. They play that music, and I just have to say, is there anything more electric than that Halo intro, Chad and Jared? Like, if you think back to that, like, does that not just like send like shivers down your spine, more or less?
I mean, it shoots you back being, a kid for me.
Feel like, yeah,
And like,
feel like you're 15 years old again.
well, I was 9, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like, my bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so now Bungie has all this hype behind it. They have this history. We talked about like all these sweet ass games that they've been making here, kind of churning one out every year and a half, 2 years. And now, remember, think back to Myth 2, they had to recall all those games. They lost $800,000. Bungie's out of money. So the worst kept secret in the gaming industry is that Microsoft is making a game console. This would be the Direct Xbox, as it was known at the time, which ended up just being the Xbox. So Mr. PR, Peter Tamte, however you pronounce it, like once again, I'm sorry, sir. He sets up a meeting with Ed Fries, who is from Microsoft, who is obviously the arch nemesis of the people of Steve Jobs and Mac. So they're like, hey, here's the deal. If we're not acquired, this game isn't coming out. We don't have the money to pay our employees, so we have to be acquired. Since Bungie, or I apologize, since Microsoft has this console launching, and they are in need of a of like a shooter game of their launch lineup, they're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's work something out. Microsoft acquires Bungie and then moves Bungie from Chicago to the Redmond, Washington area and puts them not on the main Microsoft campus, but in the Redmond campus, which I've seen is roughly 8 miles from the main Microsoft campus. I've never been there, can't speak for certain. This is all on my research, which I've done probably 8 to 10 hours of YouTube videos and reading for this week. So I kind of got a little bit engrossed this week. So they actually were in like the Xbox offices. They shared an office, ironically, with the Microsoft Encarta, which, if you remember, Encarta was like the way you could trick your parents into buying you a computer because it was um, an encyclopedia. So, like a encyclopedia on CD. So Bungie hates the studio, hates the corporate structure. Everything's in cubicles. Keep in mind they're used to frat house type areas and everything's open, and if you need something you just go talk to the person, or yell across the hall at them there. So they make it more like the Chicago office. There's a giant crunch excuse me, on Halo. People are literally leaving their houses and moving into the studio to work more hours to finish the game. We are at this point 6 months out. There is no campaign. There is no multiplayer. The multiplayer was scrapped. They say we have to scrap the multiplayer because we don't have enough time to make a campaign and have a multiplayer. Now, if you remember last week, I said, hey, let's talk about the Bungie West team that had just finished Oni, and they were kind of floating around. So they pulled 2 people from that Bungie West team, and they were tasked, hey, if we are going to have a multiplayer, it's on you 2 people, and it's up to you guys, and otherwise we're not going to have it in the game whatsoever. Due to this crunch, that is why you see so many reused assets in the latter half of the game. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Halo CE campaign. I can pretty much tell you every level, order for order, and what happens in each one. But if you remember the 343 Guilty Spark and the library, basically the latter half of that game, you're basically in the same areas and a lot of the same like Covenant kind of stuff going on. So that's why you see a lot of those reused assets, which were a lot of the complaints in the reviews about the game. So also in the game, there were the assets were so reused and everything looked so samey that there was a person that was in testing that added blue arrows that pointed the direction, and those like kind of never got removed, and that's how they got added into the game, which is pretty crazy looking back on it, because the game tester kept getting lost, so they dropped those blue arrows on the ground. So, backing up just a little bit, one of the main selling points of Halo before it came out was that it was the first game to really mix interior gameplay. Think about the Pillar of Autumn, the first level, you're fighting through the ship, and so you're mixing interiors and exteriors. Exteriors, Halo, the second level, Halo, and then you have like Truth and Reconciliation, which I believe is the third level. That's where like you're sniping, and then you go into the ship, and then you have like the Silent Cartographer, where you're going around the island, and then you go into the structure. So, and the other thing that it did, it made first-person shooters on controller actually feel good, because up until then, it was believed you couldn't really play a first-person shooter without a mouse. So, the other thing that was very helpful with Bungie was that everybody was going to be playing on the same hardware, so they didn't have to optimize for, um, you know, different computer specs and all that stuff. Everybody was playing on the same thing. So, in order to deal with less precision with controller, at the time, most controller shooters used a hard lock targeting system, but Halo opted to use the soft lock targeting system. So multiple script pages and pages of scripts were written so that whenever you move the right stick to aim, it went where you wanted it to go and not necessarily where you were actually going. So Halo was the first game Actually, it was the second game. I believe the first game was some aliens game that was like never a popular game. But it was the first game that popularized, second game overall, that the left stick moves you and the right stick turns your head / aims your controller. So pretty wild to look at. You know, a lot of people think like GoldenEye 64, which that game is. I didn't think that game was very good as a kid. Everybody else seemed to, but you know, that game was kind of like however you move, that's how you aimed. So it wasn't split because, you know, the N64 controller only had the one joystick on it. So that is kind of one thing it did. And, you know, talking about how like the soft lock targeting system on controller to this day, and I'm sure that Chad still really appreciates this in Destiny even. So Halo um, Chief early on, however, he wasn't known as the Master Chief at this time. He was just known as the Cyborg. So um, they decided they were going to name him Commander. However, there was like a war history buff that worked at the office. He gets kind of pissed off because a commander never actually fights in battle. So they went through and looked up the most expendable Navy rank that actually fights on the battlefield, and that person's rank is Master Chief. So we know that Halo comes out and it is the killer app on the Xbox. Like this game is like crazy. Like it's awesome. Everybody, I saw that out of every 10 Xboxes sold, 5 purchased Halo, which is pretty wild. Like a 50% attach rate on a game like that was a launch game is nuts. Um, the first time I played Halo was at my friend's like 15th birthday party or 16th birthday party, and he had just got an Xbox for Christmas. His birthday was in like March, and we go over and we had like 4 controllers, and I played it, and I was like, "Oh my god! Like I have to have this game. This is crazy." Um, let's see, I would have been like not. I wasn't old enough to like have a job, so I basically had to wait until Christmas the following year in order to get one. So got one for Christmas. Got Halo. Good old Mamo Brewer hooked me up with Halo for Christmas that year. So was able to beat the hell out of my little sister playing Halo, and that's how I got the thumb skills up. And then, man, I remember lugging. I mean, from the I wasn't able to drive, so let's see, I would have been able to drive in 2004. So like when Halo 2 came out, I remember we skipped school and went and got it at the mall at GameStop or Electronics Boutique at the time. Um, but with Halo 1, uh, you know, I remember like literally lugging my original Xbox and a television around from friends' houses. I bought, I still had dial up, but I bought like the system link cable, and then like once more of my friends started getting Xboxes, I ended up buying like a router essentially, so we could all hook in and play together. So we would have 4 teams of 4. So we'd have like teams of 8, 2 teams of 8 playing, and we would link up in different rooms to where we could do. I mean, it was wild, man. It literally was like my childhood, and like some of my greatest memories are, uh, Halo and Halo 2 as well. But with Halo 2, we were older, and the girls would start coming to the parties and stuff, so we weren't able to play till the girls left. So, we were kind of trying to get it in and then get it in after that. You know what I mean? So, it was fun times. But every time, I was watching all this stuff this past week, but I tell you what, man, when that Halo music hits and the music, it's fucking electric. It is like send shivers down your spine, and I love it. And so next week we'll hit Halo 2. And this is Halo 2 will probably be the longest part of this, I would say. There's a lot of Halo 2 information going on. There is a lot of Halo 2. information. So we'll get in there. There may or may not be a Jason Jones leaving the company and then coming back later on here, but it's wild, man. So
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know how they came up with the name Master Chief. That was pretty cool. And
oh, I should have mentioned one more thing. Whenever, right before the game launched, they had a company like a PR company come in and they wanted to name the game Covenant. And like it was going to be Covenant up until like 2 weeks before release. And somebody at Bungie is like, this name sucks. Like, why are we calling this Covenant? And everybody's like, yeah, you're right. They ended up going Halo. But they were worried Halo might be too religious. So that was why they like avoided it first, but that's ended up what they're going with. So this game was almost called Covenant, which is pretty wild.
why is the Beatles your favorite band?
The Beatles are the greatest band of all time, Jared.
Okay.
Like hands down. It's not even close, dude. Not even close.
Okay. I guess it's time for the mailbag. And the first question here: would you guys be up for a lore trivia game? Specifically, Fox reads the questions, and Jared and Chato go head to head. I mean, yeah, I'm down, but we all know who's gonna win that. But
That's not true. You know things. You know things that you read sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It would be fun though. It would definitely be fun. You good reading?
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be a fun time. And
Okay.
it'd be fun for Ryan to come up with the questions or get the questions without either of us being able to find out about it. That way we can't research ahead of time.
Yeah, I think it's kind of bullcrap that I wasn't included in the trivia. I just have to read the question. But all right.
You say very specifically you wait for someone to tell you the lore. You've
That's
said it
true.
multiple times.
That's true. I feel like I could at least get 2 out of 10 though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I believe in you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just be honest with yourself when you read the questions if you thought you would know it or not.
Number 2, rank the Halo games.
Ryan's got the most opinions, I think.
I'm just calling them the Bungie. I'm not ranking that 343 bullshit that they put out.
No,
So,
definitely not.
yeah. So this is going to be controversial, and I know it is.
It's out of
And
5, right? There's 5
I
of
could
them.
argue it. Yeah. So Halo 3, Halo 2, Halo 1, Halo ODST, Halo Reach.
So it reaches last.
Yeah, Reach is last for him, yeah.
Like I still think Reach is awesome. I don't think like any of the games suck. I think every game is at least a 9 out of 10. So it's like literally, it's like we're trying to rank my children, more or less.
Fair.
Chad, go ahead.
Okay. I don't have as many friends as Ryan did back in those days. So I didn't have as many LAN parties until Reach happened. Reach is when I hit like the enough friends with enough Xboxes to do stuff. And because Forge existed, I like to create things. So I would make maps. I made zombies maps, I made racing maps, I made like puzzle maps where you had to survive to the end of this like obstacle course and stuff. And we had just a blast, 16 people in a room, multiple projectors, LED, just big ass TVs, just amazing. A bunch of guys just sitting back to back looking at multiple walls. But 3 was definitely 1 for me. That's when I started getting more competitive on FPS games was 3. Then Reach, then 2, ODST, and 1. I didn't get a lot of time on 1 because my stepdad kind of hogged the Xbox. So I wasn't really allowed to play it. And when I played it with him, I got good enough that I kicked his butt at it and he stopped letting me play it. So like I wasn't like, yeah, exactly, yeah. So it's one of those things where I didn't have as many memories with it because I my friends didn't have Xboxes really. So I didn't have much time on it. but it's still, like you said, it's like raiding something that you love near and dear. It's nothing's bad. It's just out of these 5.
Yeah. So Halo 2 is going to be number 1 for me, mainly because that's the
Ooh.
first game that I went and played online with and played against people
Okay.
across the internet,
Yeah.
which like blew my mind. Like, first of all, like
Of course.
I could play with
Yeah.
my cousin that's like 3 miles away from me, right? But we're playing the same game together, so it's like it
Yeah.
kind of amazed me growing up. So, two is my favorite game, probably like of my childhood, too. And then I would probably have to go with Halo 3 because that's when I just remember so many private game forges and all this and the party games that you played and stuff like that. That was so much fun there. And then I have to go Reach because I just really like the campaign of it mostly. And then I have to
Reach was
go.
awesome, man.
I have to go with original Halo 4 and then ODST as the last one. I just wasn't crazy about ODST for whatever reason. It just didn't do it for me.
What? You're not a buck guy?
Like, I barely even remember. I know I
You
played
don't like
through it and
jazz?
stuff, but it's like it was just okay. It was like it wasn't Master
Yeah.
Chief.
No.
It's kind of the reason.
I got you.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah, I mean, Reach, I know I had it last, which is just wild to say, but I think the reason I had it last, and I was in college when, like, maybe my second year of college when the Reach came out, and I remember going to get it, and just none of the Reach maps, like, I can't remember a name of a Reach map that was like, there's no Lockout, there's no The Pit, there's no Hang 'em High, there's no Blood Gulch. Like, there's not like a Reach map that I can think of that is like iconic as those. And I think but I do remember the sniper rifle feeling incredible in Halo Reach. Like, I thought it felt
Yep.
really good.
That
And
needle rifle
somewhere,
was my BZ.
yeah, yeah, somewhere in this house, there's like the Reach collectors, like the statue of like all the Spartans and stuff. So I have that
Yeah.
tucked away.
Yeah. I was
That
the
and
first person
what's
at
I'm gonna
the
tell
midnight release to walk out with one of those. Had the
I'm gonna
box.
we'll tell a story on like 16-year-old me. My cousin Cody had told me that Jared's mom and dad had got him the Halo 3 Legendary Helmet Edition for Christmas and let him have it early. And I was so fucking jealous that they had that helmet and I didn't.
Yeah.
I ended up buying it later.
Mm-hmm.
I bought it later, but when you had that helmet, man, I was because you remember Halo 3, I had told you guys I got it early where I worked at the video store, so I couldn't get the Legendary Edition. I had to get the Collector's Edition, which was like the Steelbook,
Mm-hmm.
10 thick boy.
Yep.
So, yeah, I wanted that helmet. I had that helmet.
Next time I go to Mom and Dad's, I probably need to grab that thing out of the basement before my brother does.
Yeah. Your brother will grab it in like a year, so you probably have a little bit of time to get it, but he'll eventually grab that.
Yeah. All right, question 3. What are you going to do to help pass the time until Witch Queen? Man, it's like this 30th anniversary stuff was like a really nice jump of just like stuff to do, but now kind of feel it dying off. Like got the rock ship done. There's still like a little bit more to do with the dungeon, just grinding out some of the gear, but I'm kind of finding hard just to keep my time going. I actually started playing PvP today, so I'll eventually get tired of that, but I think I'll just play some 6s.
Yeah, I'm probably for Destiny time. Got to hit that dungeon more to get the drops I want. Hit the dares just to get the hopefully I can get that purple sword, a good one, and then a good BXR. But nothing else really matters too much there. I'm getting some last triumphs done on the Tangled Shore, place that's going to be leaving, and any seasonal triumphs that are going to also be vaulted as well. Getting that done because that's I like checking off boxes. But after that, like since I was away from my PC all this last holiday weekend, um, I was switching it up. I was playing some Pocket Monsters, playing some Metroid, playing them Nintendo games, and I got back here and I kept playing some Metroid, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this was fun. It's a nice fun break here. 100% of the hard mode. No, I don't. No, I don't need to play that again, sadly. But yeah, it's gonna be when I'm not grinding Destiny, gonna start trying to find some other thing to do. Maybe we can all download golf with friends and stream us playing that. I don't know.
For sure. For sure. So my play, I need to finish stacking some bounties. I need to have everything prepared. I gotta finish. I probably need like 20 to 25 more dares runs, which are gonna just be miserable. I have pretty much all the weapon. There's no weapon role that I like really, really want that I don't have. I mean, there's stuff I could get better rolls of, but nothing that's like driving me at the moment. Um, I've really enjoyed like running people through raids that haven't done raids, so I'm sure I'll be doing that. Um, and I think that the rest of this is going to be answered with the next question that I see here. What games do you play when you're not playing Destiny?
Oh, I didn't see that question. I
Yeah,
answered it
so
accidentally.
I'll go ahead and continue my answer from the last question. I think I'm going to try to crank out a couple Final Fantasies before Witch Queen drops. I love the Final Fantasy series. Other than Halo and Destiny, Final Fantasy are my favorite games. So I've thought about. I've like watched a lot of Final Fantasy VI. I've never played all the way through Final Fantasy VI, so I thought about trying to get that done. But I've played like 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 to 13, 15, 5, and I think 4, I want to say. So I played most of them. I don't really have a lot of desire to play 1, 2, or 3, but 6 is the one. 6 and Tactics are kind of the ones that I would like to hit. So I'll probably uh, I'll probably check the Steam sale that goes on to like December, goes on to like January 3rd. If any of them are on there, I'll probably pick them up and maybe play through those.
Let me give this some thought, and I feel like, do I want to play more first-person shooters, or do I want to just take a break from that? So I'm like, should I go like try to like go back and get like play some of the Witchers, or like go back like I had like a 2 weeks where I played Valorant, or like maybe see what CS:GO's about. It's still the most played game on Steam. I never played it. Maybe just see what it's about. I know it's a game that's probably a very high skill ceiling. It's probably hard to get into, but that's just the thoughts that I've had. I haven't really decided what I want to do to try to bridge the gap to Witch Queen. So I'll probably be trying to find something, and I'll be talking about it, letting you all know if I find anything good that I get into and enjoy. But
Dude, The Witcher 3 is the most complete, best game I've ever played.
yeah,
Like, the only game that is comparable to The Witcher 3 as far as like scope, size, magnitude, and like being good in every facet is Grand Theft Auto 5.
I mean, I already listed off my answers, but we should run a three man and or girl squad on Final Fantasy 14 online. Is it 14? They just released a new
Yeah,
DLC on
dude, I
there.
can't. If I do that, I'll quit playing Destiny.
I
I
know,
gotta
I
be
know.
careful.
Like I would download it, do a character creator for multiple character classes, and then just be done with it. Like, because I'm like, the character creation is the most interesting part, and I'm like, I play Destiny. I don't have the time for this other game.
Yeah.
But yeah, playing Final Fantasy X again sounds really nice. Thanks for the suggestion, Ryan. It sounds like a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah. 10 was overrated, but that's fine.
No, it's definitely overrated, but it's still a good game,
It's
and
a good game.
it's a fun one. It's a fun one.
You should play 10 2 instead.
Yeah.
Question 5.
I've never played any of those, by the way. I don't think.
Oh,
I've,
you
I
should.
don't think I've.
I don't think they're your game, Jared.
Okay.
I'll just knowing like what you like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Final Fantasy is going to be your style. I definitely don't start with 7. 7 is the most overrated game of all time, in my opinion. Haven't played the remake yet. I know it hit the Epic Game Store last week or so, but I'm kind of holding
it's
out
on
for it to
Epic
hit
Games.
Steam. I'm waiting for it to hit Steam before I
Yeah.
buy it. So, all right, question 5. I want to run a raid. Will you help me? Yes. Yes, we will.
100%.
Send us a message on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. Join our Discord to where you can send us one in there. You can tweet at us. You can leave a comment on this video. I go through all of those. You do it there, and we will get you in, and we will do it probably within 2 or 3 days. If I had to guess, we could probably get it sorted out.
Yeah.
Well, before we end the podcast, any New Year's resolutions you all have going forward?
Ooh, get one God roll.
Get one.
I know I don't have a choice, but one.
Okay.
One where I can show it on a Discord channel and be proud of it. I've never had that.
I want the day 1 raid emblem this year.
I can taste it. Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've been close. We're getting
The
if we
bog,
can get
it
those
counted. Vault of Glass counts. It
If
counts.
we can get those other bums online to grind a little bit and get a couple weapon rolls, we'll be all right, I think.
Yeah. They're missing a couple of the guns that just came out, but whatever.
I am not going to buy any beer to bring home for the whole month of January.
Oh, so if it's already there? So if I mail you stuff?
Like a sober January
Yeah,
instead of sober October?
I'm not bringing any. Like, I'm trying to cut that out. Try to do some more like vodka and more gin, more some clear liquor, stuff like that. So yeah.
I don't think I can mail anything, huh?
Beer's better.
There's only a couple of states where you can mail booze, right? I'll have to look into that.
No, it was yet to get Drizzly. I sent booze to Shifty. You had to do it through Drizzly.
Yeah.
Or one of those apps.
I can do that.
So I think that's it. Before I let these other guys sign off, reminder, follow us on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. Subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, yada, yada, yada on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, etc. You guys go ahead and sign off.
You know, usually we're all about saying go Cats and all this stuff, but this time it's go Bearcats and beat the Voltide and get to that championship game. And I'll be rooting hard for him. It's just a Cinderella story. See if it ever happens in football. Let's go.
And for me, it's never sports related. So if you guys got any lore questions or anything you'd like to hear about in the interim before we get to more stuff near the end of the season, just let me know. Send us a message on Twitter or in Discord, and I'd be more than happy to look into some stuff for everybody.
Go Kentucky Wildcats.